everybody, my name is Itai, Rotem, I am an Israeli tour guide, and today we have the real pleasure of being here in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which is the one and only holiest place for Catholics and Orthodox around the world. Since in that church are the last 5 stations of the Via Dolorosa. According to the tradition, this is a place in which Jesus was crucified, buried, and eventually resurrected as well. But when we think about it, there is something weird in the history of the church, because we know that for the first 300 years of Christianity, it was illegal to become a Christian, right? So nobody could come and build a church. So how did it start? Who is the first one to build a church here? Well, for that we have to go a bit in history and remember in a year of 324, in which all of us probably know that one man called Constantine made the Christian religion into a legal religion in the Roman Empire. But you know what? Constantine himself wasn't a very religious person. For most of his life he wasn't a Christian himself, and honestly, wherever he could, he put statues of himself, and he wasn't really the most devoted Christian one can imagine. If you want to look for the credit for the one who should really get the respect, you should have to look for the woman behind the man, which in this case is Helena, which used to be his mother. His mother was a very devoted Christian, and when he found it out, well, he had a difficult choice to make. Either he had to punish his own mother because she is breaking the law, or he has to make the Christian religion into a legal religion, and so he did. 1 year afterwards, at 325, Helena came here to Jerusalem, to the Holy Land, to find out the holy sites, and she is the one who built the first church here. At 325, it took around 10 years to build it, and the church that Helena built here was massive, was very big, much bigger than the church that we know today, but that church was destroyed by the Persians, and later on the church was rebuilt again a few times. What we see today is built on a base of a Crusader time church, around 800-900 years ago. This church is very, very different from any other church that you saw before in your life, because usually, as in the Christian quarter, when we go in a church, we know that alright, this church is a Catholic church, this church is an Orthodox church. Here the story is completely different. Inside this church there are 6 different sects of Christianity. We have the Catholics, we have the Greek Orthodox, we have the Armenians, we have the Syrians, we have the Egyptians, and we have the Ethiopians. And for many, many centuries they didn't get along very well. They would fight each other for who would have the right to do the ceremony in the most auspicious time, who would take care of more area in the church, and so on. After some time that it took place during the Ottoman times, the Turkish time in Israel, the Turks decided that they had enough with it, and they made everybody sign a status quo agreement. This agreement says that the way things are today, I mean back then, around 200-300 years ago, that's the way they are going to stay, unless everybody will agree to change something. And since usually they don't agree on anything, not much had changed for the last few centuries. To show you an interesting example, up here on the porch there is a ladder. Around 250 years ago, one of the sects of the church needed that ladder to go down the porch, to take down a bucket and to pull up food with it, but nobody needs it anymore for a very long time. Because it's written in the status quo agreement that there is a ladder on the porch, well, there has to be a ladder on the porch. So every time the ladder gets rotten and destroyed, they put a new one, they change it around 6-7 times until today. It's there just because it's written that it should be there. Another interesting thing about the status quo agreement is that the keys to the church are held by a Muslim family. And every morning a member of the same family for many, many centuries is coming here with the key. A member of another family, which is not entitled to hold the key but is entitled to lock the door, is coming as well, going up the ladder, taking the key, locking the door. It's a 200-year-old lock, this big, and the ceremony is taking place every morning and every evening in the opening and the closing of the church. Another interesting thing is having to do with the Muslims, since Jesus in his life became also holy in the Muslim tradition. The Muslims see him as one of the prophets in the line of prophets, simply not the latest version. If you want the iPad 3, you should follow Muhammad, according to the Muslims. And it happened to be so that right in front of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the holiest place in the world for the Christian, we are having a mosque, which is right up here. And this mosque is called the Mosque of Omar. Well, who is this Omar to be so important to have a mosque named after him? Omar was the second Caliph, the second ruler of Islam after Muhammad, and he is the one who conquered Jerusalem. And when he came here, he was about to enter the church to do his prayer, but then he thought, well, if I will enter the church, my followers will make it into a mosque. And apparently he was quite of a wise person, and he had a lot of respect to other traditions, so he decided to pray in front of the church and not inside of it, and that's how we are having the church and the mosque in front of the church dedicated to Omar. The church is a very fascinating place. There is a lot to see inside, and hopefully we will do it in another day. See you in Israel.